This is my first podcast, and I couldn't be more happy to do this with you. You're an amazing coach.
I'm honored. The strategy for coaching is always to help them understand how to reach their goals the best way, the fastest way, the most impactful way.
The impact is not only on them, but it's on their teams.
You ask them, are they open to a different approach? You start to connect the dots for them. Sometimes people skim. They don't like to go deep when we coach them. Vulnerability is part of the package. The approach we use allows us to go there even if they're not comfortable.
The first thing that I need to do is to know my values.
If you're not living in alignment with your values, inside of you, you're torn apart. Give us the facts. Then we're able to go below the facts. Show you how this picture isn't matching what you want.
The word balance is creating the wrong expectations from everyone, especially now that we are in a constant change society. You cannot find balance and what is the right balance at any given time. Until you define it, you need to change again. This is not the purpose.
Do we want moments of calm period? Yes, moments, not a lifetime of that. What we see is a great deal of internal and external friction among a younger generation. Not being settled, not being at peace, much more talented than my generation ever was. But their ability to manage their emotional state is a greater struggle for them.
Hi, Kim. I'm so glad to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here.
You know that this is my first podcast. I was planning for that for a long time. And I couldn't be more happy to do this with you. You are a coach, you are an amazing coach, and I feel comfortable enough to step out of my comfort zone with you.
I'm honored, and I hope that you will feel like it's a normal conversation and you're not even aware that we're being recorded. So I'm happy, thrilled, and delighted to be your first guest.
Thank you. Any tips that you like to share for those that they want to, like me, that they want to get out of their comfort zone and do something that they haven't done before, but they have a fear inside?
Yeah, I don't know. If we're going to just talk about a podcast, my greatest tip, and even if you want to try something new, follow your curiosity. If you've been curious about something, if you want to try something, follow your curiosity and try. Put your toe in the water and give it a try and see how it feels. And so, try. Life is short, right?
I see. Yeah.
I think that people think that when they're trying new things, they're jumping into the deep end of a pool and they're worried that they're going to drown. And I think that is a big, big misconception. You can try something new without being worried about drowning. You can put your toe in and see how it feels. You can experiment. You can run pilots. You can try something and be okay with it not working out perfectly.
I see. So what you're saying is that if I focus on my curiosity, I will also take away my concerns and remove my focus from those kind of concerns that probably will make me more stressed.
Yeah, your concern is about performance, right? So don't worry about performance. Worry about the conversation and just being interested in the conversation. That's it.
So, Kim, I know we've been working a lot together, and you've created that amazing methodology, which is called Frame of Mind Coaching.
Yeah.
And also the journal that talks back, that both of them have a very similar methodology that are based on. So today I would like to talk a lot about frame of mind and frame of mind for executives, frame of mind for even the younger generation in business, which I know that you put a lot of your energy and time on coaching both executives and younger generation. So I want to talk about all of this, and the purpose is to give insights or even inspirations to those that can hear us. And so this is what we'll be talking today.
Wonderful.
And my first question is, why do people come to you for coaching?
Well, people come to us for coaching because something's not right, right? They're struggling. And what we've seen is that our clients, who are typically leaders in organizations, and I call them the highly driven population, they struggle in normally one of four areas, and we see it consistently. So, either they struggle with a feeling of isolation, like they're carrying a heavy burden on their own, they have no one to talk to, they have no one to relate to. Maybe they have people to delegate to, but at the end of the day, they are the ones responsible. They're not sure if they're doing a good job. They have maybe some self doubt. That, they want to perform at their highest level. They do well sometimes, other times they don't. They have frustrations, so but primarily they feel a sense of isolation. They're in it on their own, and they have no one to really lean on, to talk to. And so that's one area that we see that people need someone to talk to. The second area is that we see a lot of these leaders have some kind of friction with others in their relationships. And it could be personal and it could be professional. It doesn't matter. And the friction is something we see in two forms. Number one is outward friction. So there's fighting, there's conflict, there's tension, and it's palpable. It's people can see it, feel it, hear it, right? People get mad. They either get silent or they get, or they yell. And so there's a problem in their relationship somewhere that they struggle with. Or, and we see this almost even more often, is that a lot of leaders have a friction with others that they never voice, they never speak about. So somebody's maybe not performing, or a partner is not holding up their part of the deal, or there's something going on, maybe at an executive level, or maybe in their marriage. It doesn't really matter. And they feel it
Mhm.
internally and they don't know how to deal with it. So they hold it in and it builds up, 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 and they don't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
Right? So
Mhm.
it's that friction with others. So that's the second area of struggle. The third area of struggle is what I call chronic dissatisfaction. So these are people who are typically high performers and they feel like they're not reaching the goals that they want to be reaching. So they've already done a lot, but they feel like they should be further ahead. They feel like something's slowing them down. They feel like other people don't row as fast or don't work as hard. They don't have the same level of urgency. Maybe something's wrong with them. They don't know, right? So they're always questioning, why is it taking so long? What's getting in the way? How can I do this better? Maybe I need help. Like, I'm just not happy with where I am. And so they have this
So
chronic,
it's a lot about performance.
it's a lot about performance. But then there's another area of dissatisfaction that people come to us with. And I made up a term. I call it slippage. And what is slippage? It's when people don't take care of themselves and they let important things slip through the cracks. Things like their health, their sleep, their fun, their, nutrition. Maybe they're drinking a lot, but they just don't feel good. And maybe they feel a little burnt out, but they've been working so hard. They've been giving it all that they can. They're not getting where they want to. They're not enjoying it anymore. And they think, life is supposed to be better than this.
That's very interesting because when I get to coach a lot of executives, what I see is that some of them are going through a burnout stage, and m- most of them they don't even acknowledge that,
Yeah, they deny
and
it.
yeah, they deny it. And what do you do with this kind of executives that they don't care about their well-being, which if they don't, the impact is not only on them but it's
Yeah.
only on their teams. So
Yeah.
how do you work with those kind of executives?
I think, when you work with executives, they're very goal oriented. And so the strategy for coaching is always to help them understand how to reach their goals the best way, the fastest way, the most impactful way. And when you show them that their strategy currently isn't working, then you ask them, are they open to a different approach? Right? And so then you start to connect the dots for them and show them the cost of their current approach.
Mm-hmm.
And you
I
use other
see.
examples and you say, here's how we can help you get from here to where you want to go. And sometimes it looks like you're slowing down, but sometimes you need to slow down in order to speed up. And so what we're doing is we're always connecting to their greatest desire, which is usually a goal.
Okay. And what do you think about vulnerability? Because what you said now exactly about leaders, that they're most concerned about achieving their goals, their performance, is something that we've seen in the businesses in the workplaces for a long, for the last decades. And I acknowledge that those leaders that they carry successes with them. I mean, they have a career track that is on the table. In most cases, they are not comfortable enough with saying that, I find this a challenge, or I don't know what to do with that. And I call it vulnerability. And I'm
Yeah.
asking that because my last blog post was a lot about vulnerability in executives, and
Yeah.
mainly on, more, if I can call them, successful executives, that they carry that burden of, I carry successes on my back. So what is vulnerability for you? I mean, have you worked with people with vulnerability, fear? I mean,
Mm,
fear to be
yeah.
vulnerable.
Well, I think that once a person agrees to go for coaching, and in my case, and they agree to the terms of coaching, and we can talk about that in shortly. But once they agree to the format that we ask them to enter into when we coach them, then vulnerability is part of the package for me, right? So, yes, I'm coming into this coaching relationship. I'm ready to open up. I'm ready to give you my problem so you can help me. So, I don't experience a problem with that. Sometimes people skim, right? They don't like to go deep. It's hard for them to go deep. They don't know how to go deep. But that's why the system we use, the approach we use, allows us to go there even if they're not used to it, even if they're not comfortable. And what I really mean by that is, as you know, we use journaling in our coaching process. And when someone journals every day, what we're really asking for upfront is give us the facts. So facts don't necessarily call for vulnerability. Does that make sense? Here's what
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Totally.
Here's how the conversation went down. Here's what he said. Here's what she said. Here's, what I tried to do. Here was my approach. Let's deal with the facts. When we are able to extract the facts, then we're able to go below the facts. We're able to get beyond the facts, help them understand how their approach and their thinking, their belief system doesn't necessarily line up with the goals that they have. And so that allows us to get to a much more vulnerable place. Process invites vulnerability. It makes it much more easy to get to, because what we're doing is we're just extracting a whole bunch of data. And with that data, we're laying it out. We're saying, okay, here's the picture. Is this what you want? Let's describe or define what you want. And let's show you how this picture isn't matching what you want. And let me help you. Let me show you how your thinking, your beliefs aren't allowing you to get to where you want to go. And that
Mm.
opens up the door for vulnerability.
So what you're saying is that in a lot of cases, our belief system, I have create a limitation for us to change, to grow, or to get out of what we've done so far. And I know that you are working this through journaling. Do you have any case that you can share with us of any executive that's, a belief system or a limiting belief has been him or her back from growing, changing, or making any progress?
Yeah, I have many, many, many. But
Give us the best one.
I'll give you one story, and I'll use it because it's an interesting story. Years and years ago, one of my clients said, "I would like you to coach a friend of mine," and I'm making an introduction. So it was a referral. We love referrals, right? So he made an introduction. He said, "But before I introduce you, I want you to treat him with kid gloves." Do you know what that means? It means I want you to be very delicate with him.
Okay.
And you know me, I'm not that delicate. Like I'm very direct, and I'm very, you know, I
Yeah.
don't tread lightly. And I said, why are you introducing me like that? He said, well, he's a good friend of mine. He's in his early 30s and he has stage 4 cancer. So when I got on the phone with him, I said, well, I have 2 questions for you. Question number 1, how long do you have left to live? Tough
That
question.
was a direct question. Yeah.
Very direct question. So I didn't have gloves on, no gloves. And he said, I'm not sure. I'm on a whole bunch of experimental drugs, and I'm guessing I have 2 years. He said, I think that I've already lived longer than I was supposed to live, but I'm guessing I have 2 years. I said, okay, like, what do you want to achieve as a result of coaching? How can I help you? And he said, what I really, really want your help with is I want you to help me increase my productivity. I thought it was a little bit strange because if I had 2 years left to live, I don't think I would care so much about my productivity,
Indeed.
right? So I said, why is that important to you? He said, well, I run a business. I'm an only child of a single mom, and I want to make sure that I grow my business and sell it so that my mother's in a good place after I go financially. She's taken
Mm-hmm.
care of. I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let me ask you a different question. What do you really, really want? And he said, well, I want more time and I do want to grow my business, but I want to travel and I want to get married and I want to have a home and I want to take my mother on a great vacation and I want to run a marathon. Right? I want to do all these things. I said, why don't we work on that instead? And we started to work together. And what I discovered is that as a business owner, he owned a financial services company. But as a business owner, he was working from early in the morning to very late at night. He was putting in
Mm-hmm.
10, 12, 14 hours a day. And he had to make sure that he was getting in every sale. And every time he got a contract, he was doing the work, making sure that it was going out the door, making sure it was perfect. And I said, you know what? We need to talk about hiring people. You can't keep this up, right? Like, it's too much on your shoulders. And he said, I can't afford to hire people. And I said, you can't afford not to hire people. Your life is at stake. You can't continue doing what you're doing. And what we did was we worked together to figure out how he could start hiring people. But his primary belief was, I have to do everything by myself. At the end of the day, everything rests on my shoulders alone. And I knew that that was a formula for stress, early death, right? And my job in my mind was to help him lower his stress so that the experimental drugs would take effect, so that they would work. So he started to hire people and he started to reduce his level of responsibility. He started to reduce his workload. Well, it's been 8 years and he's still
Oh.
living. And in those 8 years, he sold a good chunk of his business. He bought a house. He got married. He's about to have a child in a month or so. He took his mother on 2 great vacations. He ran a marathon. He ran a triathlon and he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. And he still has cancer and he's still fighting, but we opened the window of time for him. But fundamentally, his belief was, I can't afford to grow my business. I can't do this.
Amazing story.
Right?
So it's amazing because it's what we've discussed before about the focus on performance, which sometimes might create the wrong path for us. So once you stop focusing on performance, on achieving high performance, and focus on another area, the performance might come. So that is amazing. Do you see that there is a difference on the frame of mind for new younger generation? I mean, do the younger generation uh, are, do you see that they are really concerned about high performance, or do you see a different pattern of thought and different kind of concern? And I'm asking that because I know that you also coach a lot of
Yeah,
young people, and that you really have a you care about this younger generation.
I
And I
really
think you
do.
are also a mom of five, if I
Yeah.
count right.
Yes, five young
Right.
professionals. So I what I see is a higher level of anxiety. Anxiety is a very big theme among the younger generation. A great deal of concern, sometimes about performance, sometimes about just, you know, feeling good among others, sometimes, just feeling not judged, but they're very much concerned about how they are seen, how they are interacted with, how they are treated, how they perform, how they are viewed, if they measure up. They also have a standard for others that many people never live up to. And so what we see is a great deal of internal and external friction among a younger generation. So they have a lot of stress internally. They have a lot of discomfort, a lot of, angst. I don't know if you know that word, but just like this feeling of like not being settled, not being at peace. Something's always bothering them. And we see that externally too. And when I talk about holding things in, this generation holds things in, but they also don't hold things in. And they let a lot of things bother them that don't need to bother them. And so what we see is a younger generation at work who is extremely talented, much more talented than my generation ever was. They're smarter, they understand technology better, they're much more creative. I mean, their talent level is at another level, but their ability to manage their emotional state is a greater struggle for them. And that's where they need the support.
Mm. And what if anyone other than a coach? I mean, if you have a manager with that really cares for those people, what can a manager do for to help them start, unloading
Yeah,
that emotional pack
strength.
they
Yeah.
carry? Yeah.
I think that one thing that managers need to do is simply spend more time with their people and take a personal interest. I think that young people need to know what they're doing right, and they need help to quickly correct if they're not doing something right, and not leave it as an abstract thing. Be very, very specific about how to help a young person um, be successful, set them up for success. I think that they need more attention than just work attention. They need a little bit of personal attention as well, checking in frequently,
Mm-hmm.
periodically, to make sure that they're doing okay, not only on the job, but with their colleagues and at home. You want to do that. And you want to make sure that they're clear about what is the path to moving up in an organization. Because these highly talented people want to move up quickly. They want to make more money. They want to perform. They want to get to the next level. And if that career path is not clear to them, they will look elsewhere. They want to know, how do I
Mm.
get from here to there? What's the path? They also want to make sure that amongst their colleagues that they are being treated properly and recognized. Recognition is important. Recognized for their contribution.
What do you mean with treated properly?
So they are paying attention to how much time do you spend with my colleague over there. Are you going out for lunch with him more than you're going out for lunch with me? You had
Mm.
an hour conversation with him. How come you only had 15 minutes with me? Am I less important than he is? Do you understand? Like, they're paying attention to those details and understanding whether or not you think that they bring value, that you are an important part of the team. They're paying attention. So pay attention with them.
One of the common comments that I get from, executives or manager is that the new generation are not willing to put the energy, the time, or they are not willing to work at the same, pace or level that we've done it. And there is a kind of comparison there. And this is a kind of internal dialogue, if I can call it, that they carry on their head. And sometimes this might cause a kind of, limitation on how they treat them.
Yeah.
Or have you seen that?
I will say that I see just like adults, some of us work extremely hard and some of us don't, right? Like just like an older generation. But I will tell you, I see a lot of young people working way harder than I ever worked in my whole entire life. So I don't think that that's true. I think it's an individual thing. And I think that if they understand the path and they understand the recognition, and if they understand how to succeed, they're going to put in the time and the effort to get there. And so I don't believe that that's true at all. I do believe that they are looking for a life. I think that they believe in this concept called work-life balance. I I have some thoughts about that, but that's a different story. Um, but they're looking for a life outside of work. So they don't want their whole lives to be work. But what it also means is that work needs to satisfy social and emotional needs because of the amount of time they spend there. And so the question is work doing that? And as organizations, are we paying attention to that?
Hmm. But my curiosity takes me to ask you about work-life balance, which it's a very interesting concept that I do share, but on a different perspective. And I want to hear really your view on that.
I think that a lot of coaches try to help their clients acquire work life balance. And I think that that's the wrong goal. And I'll give you an example. When we think about balance, I'll give you a good example. And I don't know, like if in Cyprus there are playgrounds where children play, and there are, we call them seesaws or teeter totters. Are you familiar with these things?
Can
They're
you
like
explain a bit
a
more?
balance, and the one kid
Okay.
goes here and the other kid goes here. Do you know these things? And it
Yeah,
goes
we
like
do.
this. What are they called?
Tramballa, if you can. Yeah.
Trambala. Did I get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, so one kid goes here, one kid goes here, right? And what happens when they're
Yeah.
in perfect balance?
Mm, can they be in a perfect balance? That's
Yeah, if
difficult.
they're suspended here like this, what happens when they're in perfect balance?
They won't be stay there forever, I think.
But what happens when they're in perfect balance? What happens?
The fun is gone away.
Nothing happens, right? The
Yeah.
fun is gone away. Exactly. The whole point of the
Yeah.
trambala, if I said it correctly, is the ride,
Perfectly.
right? It's the up and down.
Hmm.
And so we don't want to give people a life of perfect balance because it's kind of boring there. What we want to do is we want to equip them for the ride. We want to help them build the resilience so that when they're all the way up here, they're not scared, or they're falling on the ground and it's bumpy, that it doesn't hurt so much. They want to stay on the ride, that they're okay, that they don't fall apart and say, oh my God, it's terrible, it's horrible, it's awful, it hurts, get me off, right? That's what we're really trying to do. So in life, we have moments when we're working really hard. There are moments when we need to go home and take care of our children. There are moments when we're having struggle with, let's say, our relationship. There are moments when things are just amazing and awesome. We have a roller coaster in our lives. And it's not about finding perfect balance. It's about acquiring the resilience and the attitude, the mindset to enjoy the ups and downs, to be okay when things are up and down. And that's the goal. That's the purpose. And I think that a lot of people are misled into thinking that work life balance is the goal. It's not the goal.
I love it. I love the Tramballa example that you gave, because this is exactly what I'm sharing as well. We never actually discussed this,
No?
but we definitely, I fully agree with that, because especially now that we are in a kind of, constant change society, you cannot find balance, and what is the right balance at any given time. I mean, it's difficult to define it, and until you define it, you need to change again, because changes happen around you. So I think the word balance is totally wrong, and it's creating the wrong expectations from
Yes.
everyone and from ourselves, and that makes it more difficult for us to understand that we won't find balance, and we don't need to find balance, as you said. This is not
Yeah.
the purpose
This
after
is
all.
not the purpose. Also, like, do we want moments of like calm period? Yes, moments, not a lifetime of that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's great. So, I want to go back on the frame of mind that we've discussed a lot, because I know that you have long expertise. You are coaching, and you are also training coach on that specific methodology. And I'm sure that because you focus a lot on the frame of mind for people, I want to hear from you. What do you think is the right, if there is a kind of right or a good frame of mind that could work well for new CEOs, new managers, new
Yeah.
executives?
That's a great
Because
question. I love that question. And I will say to you this, like, I work with leaders of companies and organizations of all sizes, large and small. And I think one of the greatest lessons that people walk away with as a result of coaching is becoming clear about what their responsibilities are. Because leaders in particular have learned over the years to take great responsibility, but they've learned to take responsibility for things that they can't actually control. And so the lesson of coaching is take 100% responsibility for what is in your control. And that is three things, and three things alone: the way you think, the way you feel, and what you do. The way you think, the way you feel, and your behaviors. If you can take 100% control and responsibility for those three things, your life starts to change. And what
that's
I have seen is that a lot of leaders try to control other people's behaviors. They try to control circumstances. They try to change events. They try to manipulate in a positive way what's going on around them. They force things to happen, right? And they think that their success is a result of that. And so when we
mm,
switch their understanding of their responsibilities, number one is they step up their level of integrity. They step up their level of alignment. They behave in ways that are much more consistent over time and with people. They keep the promises they make. They become very deliberate about their word, right? They become impeccable with their word. And they let go and allow other people to lead in their appropriate spots. And they learn to become coaches as leaders as opposed to
mhm.
managers, delegators, manipulators,
You-
controllers.
yeah, you mentioned consistency, and that's a very interesting insight. Do you think that consistency link in any way to authenticity?
Yeah, of course. When you're clear about your values and you act, you behave from your values, you take action from a clarity
Hmm.
perspective, then it becomes easy to be authentic. It becomes easy to just be who you are because you don't have any inconsistency. You don't have any cognitive dissonance. You don't have a separation between yourself and what you're doing.
Mm. So you're saying that if I'm a leader or manager or whatever, and I want to be an authentic one, which I think it's the best thing for a leader, both sides, for the leader and his or her team. So the first thing that I need, or one of the first things that I need to do, is to know my values.
Yeah, very, very important. Because if you're not living in alignment with your values, what happens? Inside of you, you're torn apart. You're not at peace. You're not living in a place of ease, right? So you're always inside, you have friction. When you have friction, you don't know how to be. You don't even know what authenticity looks like. You don't even know who you are really,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it
Yeah,
becomes very
indeed.
difficult.
How many leaders come to you without knowing their values? Do you see a lot of leaders that they don't, they have a disalignment with their personal values?
I think they aren't um, clear. In other words, they may know their values inside, but they don't voice them. And so because they're not front and center, they often behave in ways that clash with their values. A lot
Mm,
of leaders struggle with, what should I do versus like what's right for me to do versus what is expected of me to do. And so they're always battling external versus internal. I see that often.
mm, mm. So you are helping them through coaching to articulate their values. Even if they have it there, they're not able to articulate. So once they articulate those values, they will be able to clearly see their behaviors and align their behaviors to their
Yeah,
values.
part of it is to articulate their values, but more importantly is to articulate their beliefs and help them identify how their beliefs may or may not help them get to where they want to go. And alongside with all of that is their values. So I'm really highly focused on uh, a belief system and how a belief system, where does it come from? How long has it been there? The beliefs that helped you get to here will not necessarily get to help you get to the next stage, and so on. But beliefs run the show.
Mm, mm. What could what would you suggest to a leader that would really like to start working with, the belief system that he or she holds? What would you suggest as a first step?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of journaling, as you know. But if you simply, let's say you
Yeah.
identify a problem, whatever it is. Let's say the problem is I have an employee who's not doing a good job, but I'm not comfortable firing them. Let's just say something very fundamental, something easy. So, one of the things I encourage a leader to do is start writing down their beliefs. What do you believe to be true about this employee? The good, the bad, the ugly, right? All of it. What are your beliefs? And when we look closely at those beliefs, we'll ask the second question is, are those beliefs actually true? So one belief might be, if I hire them, then they'll never find another job. Or if I fire them, the whole entire team will be upset. Or if I fire them, I won't be able to replace them easily. Whatever it is. So identify the beliefs and then ask yourself a question, is this true? Does it have to be true? And what we're doing is now we're pushing back or we're challenging those beliefs because those beliefs keep us in a position where we have the wrong person in the wrong seat for way too long.
Mm, yeah.
That's just an
So
example.
That's a great example, actually. And this give, I think, two simple questions to ask yourself as a leader on to start working with your beliefs, acknowledge them, and start moving them, challenging them, and then making any conscious changes.
Exactly. Yes.
We're talking about the about change now. I mean, either you're changing your belief system, your behavior. It's all about change. What are the mechanics of change?
What's the
I mean,
mechanism of
how
change?
of change? Yeah, I mean,
I
you see.
feel like the mechanism of change is not behavioral change. Like we don't change behavior by managing behavior. We change behavior by managing beliefs or by challenging beliefs. So if I start thinking differently, then what happens? My behavior naturally follows. And oftentimes, leaders try to create change in their organizations by looking in and trying to implement behavioral change. And it works for a short period of time. It's not sustainable change unless the beliefs are aligned with the new approach, right?
That's very interesting.
So a leader's job is actually to understand the beliefs of their team members and understand where those beliefs may or may not be positively or negatively influencing outcome. So our
Mm.
job
Mm.
as a leader is to extract beliefs and hold them up in the light and say, do these beliefs allow us to achieve our goals? So, for example, a belief might be competition is too tight. We need to lower our prices. That could be a detrimental belief. Could be,
Yeah.
right? So, a
Yeah.
leader's job is to look at what are the beliefs? Where do they come from? And are they true? And how can we look at those beliefs and perhaps challenge them so that we are able to reach our goals?
Mm. Mm. Yeah. And that takes me my thought on, there is in a lot of companies, they do have a structured process to assess the performance of their employees. And then, and this kind of performance is mainly, and the feedback that people are given are mainly based on the behaviors that they demonstrate. So looking on the behaviors and not really looking on the beliefs that are at the back of those behaviors is the wrong way to do, because change will not happen eventually, or it will not be permanent,
Sustainable.
as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
sustainable.
And I don't think we're maximizing the performance of our people when we're only focused on behaviors. We're
Mm.
not. We're not maximizing their potential, their performance. We're not doing anything. We're, you know, I think it's a very big shortcoming of leaders.
Do you think that
Oh,
really?
yes. Oh, yes. I think one of the most important jobs a leader needs to do is to learn how to coach properly, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Great leaders are great coaches.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of leaders that come to you to teach them how to be coach?
Yes, exactly. They go through coaching. They say, wow, that was an amazing experience. How do I learn these techniques so I could bring them back to my organization? How do I do that? And so we teach them. We bring them into Toronto. I live in Toronto, and we give them training so that they can go back and implement proper coaching conversations and understand what they're looking for.
But do you think that they first need to go through this experience
It
for
helps.
themselves before they get it out
I,
there?
I think it makes it a much more powerful learning when they have gone through it
Mhm.
themselves, because their understanding is much more instinctive, it's much more internal. And so it makes a big difference. It's not mandatory, but I think it makes a difference.
Kim, I know that you have a very busy schedule, and I'm really grateful that you've made the time to share your insights. But before we close out, I would like to hear your best story that you would like to share with. Maybe it's a personal story, or maybe it's a story of those that you coach, a story that can give an insight for leaders in the workplace to help them become more human, more inclusive, start changing the mindset of the workplaces to make them more personal and human.
Yeah, I mean, do I have a story to lean on for specifically to help people become more human? I don't have a story, but I have something else. How's this?
Go
Um,
ahead.
I
It
I
will be
have
great.
yeah, I have an exercise. How about that? I have an exercise for leaders
That's cool.
to try. And because I'm a huge fan of journaling, I will give this exercise. Write down 2 questions. The first question is to ask yourself, what do I really, really want more than anything? What do I really, really want? and think about what you really, really want, not what somebody wants for you, not what you think you should want, not what is expected of you, but what do you want deep in your heart? And then the second question is, what's getting in my way? What's stopping me from having what I want right now? And I want you to understand that the answer to that question gives us insight into your beliefs. That's the starting point. And when you look at what's getting in my way, look at that list and say, does that have to be true? Is that true? Does it have to be true? And that's a very, very powerful way of starting to do your own work in terms of looking at your thinking, looking at your own beliefs, and understanding whether or not your beliefs are allowing you to get to where you want to go.
Okay, that's great. So what I really want, either as a
Not
leader
really,
or
really, really. Two reallys.
twice. Okay, really, really what I
Yeah,
really, really coming from my heart, actually,
exactly.
and not from my mind. This is
Exactly.
what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. And then once I really write, and I need to write this down, not just to think about it, right?
Yeah,
I need to
absolutely.
write it down. Okay. So once I write it down, then I ask myself, what is stopping me and what is getting on my way to get there and to
Exactly.
make that happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I might write a list of 10 things that are stopping me. And then I get one by one and challenging that. Is that real? Can I see it from a different perspective? Is that
Exactly.
okay?
Exactly. Exactly that. It's a life-changing exercise.
Thank you for sharing it. And I'll go straight away and doing that exercise for myself as a
Okay. And
coach.
if you want, you can send it to me and I will read it for you.
Great. Thank you. I'll do that.
Okay.
Kim, thank you so much. It was, I'm really grateful for making this with you, my really first
You did a great job.
podcast. I hope that you enjoy it. That's the most important for me, to enjoy it. And I hope that together we can share some insights for those leaders that they really want to, be great leaders with coaching their people and caring about their people. And I know a lot of those kind of leaders, and I'm sure that you know a lot of this kind of leader.
Thank you for allowing me to be your first guest. You did a great job, and I did have a great time. If you want to do it again, I'm happy to do it anytime.
We will do. I'll keep that, and we'll repeat it.
Okay.
Amazing. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye, Kim.
Bye.